Good. 7 o'clock. Let's go ahead and call this regularly stated meeting of the Board of Education for USD 230 to order. Candy, please collect the roll.
Mrs. Melius? Here. Mr. Ewing? Mr. Ewing? Mrs. Sealing?
Here.
Mr. Hoffman?
Here.
Mr. Updike?
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell? Here. Mr. Anderson?
Present.
I'll try one more time for Mr. Ewing.
Here, sorry, I couldn't get
Okay.
off mute.
All righty. Everyone's here.
All right. Moving on to approval of the agenda. I would like to amend the agenda. I would move that we remove item 12, executive session for matters which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. I would move to remove that.
Second.
Moved and seconded to remove the item number 12 executive session from the agenda. Any comment or discussion? Candy, please collect the vote.
We'll start the vote with Mrs. Melius.
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes,
Mrs. Sealing?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Approved.
Very good. Moved. Now we will proceed to approve the agenda as amended.
Yes.
So move.
Second. It's moved and seconded for approval of the agenda as amended. Any discussion or comment? Candy, please collect the vote.
We'll start the vote with Mr. Ewing,
yes,
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Melius,
Yes.
approved.
Very good. Thank you. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. Moving on to business with individuals. We do have one card tonight, Mary Beth Jackson. I would just say that the board won't hear any topics around personnel complaints. That happens through an executive session. We don't do that in open session. All student and personnel matters do get handled and referred through our administration. We do put a 5-minute time limit on your presentation. This is typically the board doesn't respond, but we do hear it's your opportunity to provide us to a chance to listen to what you have to say. So you can step up to that microphone if you like. Yeah, no. Very good. Thank you. This is Mary Beth Jackson, correct?
Okay. Well, thank you, first of all, for letting me come and speak. I'm here on behalf of the residents of the Boulder Creek subdivision, which is approximately at 169th and Merlin. We do have an entrance, which is brand new pretty much, at Britton and 167th, which is directly across the street from Prairie Creek Elementary and kitty corner from Woodland Springs Elementary. And now on the other side of 167th, which would be the south side at Britton, there is a daycare which is called Kitty College. No problem, directly across the street from Prairie Creek. Well, anyway, the property just east of the Kitty College has been sold to a developer who wants to put in a very large, dense apartment complex. It will be 10 buildings. They're proposing 10 buildings with 6 apartments in each. Each apartment would have either 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms. Now, most of these, and okay, so this, I'm very, very, very concerned because first of all, there is a lot of traffic in this area regarding car lines, pickup, drop off of children, the middle school and the elementary school. Plus now you're adding even more because these residences would also be leaving off of Britain onto 167th Street, going to and from work. Now, no 2-bedroom apartment or 3-bedroom apartment usually just has one car. You usually have 2 cars because people are going in different directions, going to work from these apartments. So you're talking approximately an extra, let's say 120 cars going back and forth. And the children that live in Boulder Creek, though, they go to Timber Sage. But now these children will also be going to Woodland Springs as they get older. They're going to want to walk to school. They're going to want to ride their bikes to school. Traffic is not going to go away. It's going to get even worse. I can see huge risk to all these kids coming and going, whether they're being transported by their parents, by school buses or what. Because let's face it, a lot of times people are just, they don't care. They will just, I'm late for work. I got to go. The traffic is going to be horrendous. Plus, I believe there will be quite a few families moving in there with children. God love them. I've had children, but it's going to increase the population which will be coming to your school, even though, let's face it, South Olathe is exploding, that sort of thing. The other thing that I'm concerned about, I don't know how the board feels about it, but when you have children that live in apartments, many times they're transient, and I'm not saying anything against that because moms and dads may get transferred or whatever, but you're going to have kids, maybe they're not fulfilling the school year and they're going to have to leave. And that's a big toll on your staff, your supportive staff, offices, your teachers, all that. All I'm asking is for the board to look at this high density apartment complex going in across the street from the elementary and by the middle school and get a feel from the board how you feel about having this sort of thing right across the street from those 2 schools. That's all I have to say.
Very good. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for listening.
Mhm. Very good. Moving on to good news recognitions and announcements. Dr. Latrell?
Yes, this evening we have in our good news recognition and announcements some recognitions to make from some recent presentations that we made in person on the spot at the school. But wanted you all to be able to put, faces with names. And so, as you know, every year the district recognizes 2 individuals that are Horizon Award winners, which are essentially individuals that are within their first couple of years of teaching that have shown outstanding promise to continue developing into an exceptional instructional classroom teacher with a repertoire, with a wide array of instructional strategies. This year, we had 2 individuals that were recognized, and we have one of them here this evening. We're going to have both. And one of them, came down with a little bit of a virus and was unable to come. But we do have the one Horizon Award winner with us this evening, and we'd like for that individual to stand up and come up to the front and get some recognition. Mr. Danny Hodge, and I don't know if you've got your plaque. I know we were going to try, Mr. Hodge, I think, like I said, you are out. What school are you at? Why don't you tell them what school you're at? And Dayton Creek Elementary School, and his principal is here to again show support as well. But again, we want to say congratulations, and we hope that you have shown evidence of a great career. Hopefully, you will continue that and remain here at USD230 in Spring Hill for a long time and be an impact on many, many, many young people as well as fellow staff.
So I got one thing to say and I'll come back and say it, but one thing to say is appreciation. I'll be right down there. Sure, I'd be happy.
Well, they're moving. I'd just like to say congratulations. I don't think it was that long ago that I remember you out playing basketball on the basketball court as a high schooler at Spring Hill High School. So it's good to see somebody come back and do well here.
I was thinking the same thing. That's exciting.
Thank you. Hold on just one second. We were at a conference at Kansas Association of School Boards conference over the weekend, and one of the keynote speakers talked about giving 100% to celebrations. And what I just heard was maybe 20 or 25%. So we'll try this again, and we're going to give him 100% of our appreciation for this Horizon Award winner. So here we go. You ready? Here we go. Congratulations. Very good. That was 100%. That's a lot better. Plus it gets you up and down, gets the blood flowing. Everybody's awake again. It's yeah. And plus it's well deserved. It's not something that just anyone can get. It's a rarity. And so we really appreciate the time, energy, and effort that you obviously put in. This is an award that takes a lot of time and energy to earn. And it is well earned. So congratulations again. Dr. Luttrell?
Yes, and then again, continuing on in that same vein, we also recently, earlier this fall, recognized a USD230 Spring Hill Teacher of the Year from each building. And then from that recognition, we narrowed that down to two individuals, one from the elementary K-5 and one from the secondary levels 6 through 12, to be the two representatives from Spring Hill USD 230 in the Kansas statewide Teacher of the Year competition. And those individuals that were recognized, very deserving, and they are here this evening. And I would like for those two individuals that are representing Spring Hill USD 230 in the statewide competition for the elementary and secondary levels to come forward and again, get your recognition. That is Jamie Weiss, as well as Emily Veer. And so again, if those individuals would come, we'll give you the same recognition. Bring your plaques.
Let's give them 100%, right?
You
Thank
bet.
you very much.
And then
But you have a presentation or?
we got that, but I think I said, you want to, now why don't you tell us a bit, again, what building you're at and how long you've been with the district? And
Yeah, I am at Timber Stage Elementary School and I'm a math interventionist. I have been with the district for 7 years, so I have been at Prairie Creek Elementary School and then I moved over to Timber Stage when we opened and done several different positions.
Okay. All right. Well, I was like, I guess if I got this award, I should take the opportunity to also thank other people that have helped me along the way for sure. So while I was filling out my Teacher of the Year essays, which is quite extensive, I really wasn't aware of that till I got started in the process, but it actually gave me time to kind of reflect on my career of over 18 years of teaching. So I was bringing back a lot of memories and just thinking about all the people I've worked with and everything. But as I kept thinking about all the people that helped me become the teacher I am today. Without the administrators and staff that have surrounded me, I would not have had the opportunities that I've been given to push myself outside of my comfort zone. Even standing up here, I'm like, I want to say something now. I'm like, but yeah, as I said, I worked at Prairie Creek, Timber Sage, and with countless staff from around different buildings on many different built district initiatives. Even looking out here, I worked with Phil when we were first getting technology, and I was on his committee. I was on the Gemini committee when Prairie Creek was doing that, and I got to go and do some trainings with Tammy and all Michelle and all the different staff. So I just really feel like as we've grown as a district, I've moved buildings, teams, positions, and it's always been hard to leave the people that have supported me, taught me, and collaborated ideas with me. I haven't left a building or position in Spring Hill without shedding tears. Every time it was like, I was sad because I built those bonds, and I really felt like all those people really believed in me and gave me opportunities to grow. The number one predictor of student success is teacher self-efficacy and their belief in themselves that they can teach the students. And each of these opportunities I've had has helped build my teacher self-efficacy and my belief in myself. My colleagues and administrators have believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. So tonight, I just want to take the opportunity to thank everyone in the Spring Hill School District for believing in me. We moved here from Illinois, and this was where I landed. And I'm happy that I have been part of this school district. And I promise to continue working with to help all of our students believe in themselves too, because that's the biggest thing that I feel like I've been able to do is helps kids believe in themselves. When in the position that I'm in, a lot of times those kids come in and they just really don't believe they can do math. They're like, I'm terrible at it. I can't do it. And if we can just change their mindset about math, that's how we've seen the biggest success at Timber Sage. So if they believe in them that they can learn, they will learn. So thank you so much. And I look forward to continuing to grow here at Spring Hill. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Luttrell?
Yes, continuing on. Again, about 2 years ago, the board undertook an intense study to recognize individuals that definitely display as community members, staff, students that definitely epitomize to some degree what's been identified as core values that reflect the district, and this district at that time identified 6 core values and want to start recognizing individuals that were nominated and put forth as exemplifying one of the 6, and the 6 being, again, student success, supportive environment, transparent leadership, world-class staff, and an engaged community. We gave our first ever core value award a little bit over a month ago at one of our meetings that we had in the morning at one of our elementary schools. And here this evening, we are here to present a couple more, at least one, if not 2 core value awards. Then they're going to be presented, and that will explain to you the rationale behind why these individuals were chosen. We have from Spring Hill Elementary School that's going to do some presentation and provide some dialogue, Mrs. Tammy Endicott.
100%. Come on. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go.
Totally kidding. No, I have chosen 2 of my staff members to recognize tonight. And I'm going to start with Lucy Mueller. So Lucy, I'm going to make you come up front. Lucy started her career during the pandemic, which was hard for everybody, but much less somebody who is a brand new teacher starting during the pandemic. But not only did she start during the pandemic, but she started in ORL, which was even harder. And then she didn't just teach one ORL class, she taught split between 2nd and 5th. So she came in that first year, and I'm surprised she's back, but she is. And she's been with me. Come on up here. Don't be shy. She's been with me, what, 4 years now?
This is my
Third year, 3. See, I don't know. It seems like forever. 3 or 4 years. She's been with me 3 years now. And the reason I'm recognizing her is because one of the core values and Dr. Luttrell mentioned them all and I can't remember them, but the one thing that I do remember is the one had rigor in it. And the one thing I can say about Lucy is she has very high standards for herself and very high standards for her students. And she's consistent with those. She's also very reflective. She has great conversations with me and we kind of hash things out and do what's best for kids. And I really appreciate about Lucy. So Lucy, congratulations. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
All right. Ready, 1, 2, 3.
The next person I want to recognize is Mary Chamberlain. And she hates being in front of people. So come on up here. I'm going to make you stand in front of everybody as well. Mary has been with the district for 12 years. And I'm going to say I would not want to do life at She's without Mary Chamberlain there with me. She is a SPED teacher. She's in our behavior team, but she doesn't just concentrate on SPED. She concentrates on all students and helps all staff. And she is a leader in our building. She's been nominated for Teacher of the Year many, many years, and she never accepts it. So maybe one of you can talk her into it. She doesn't like to be up in front of people and talk, so that's probably why. But I've been pushing her out of her comfort zone and trying to get her to do PD and different things to help with that. But she is an excellent teacher, and I can honestly say that I would put her up against any SPED teacher in the state of Kansas, and I would win every time. She is excellent at everything that she does. And I rely heavily on her as a member of She's, and I am very happy to present and recognize Mary Chamberlain for world-class staff. I could list probably all of these, honestly, for Mary, but I appreciate her a lot. And so congratulations.
And then again, continuing on that same vein, but not a formal face-to-face recognition, but we have been starting the school year trying each month to highlight some of the activities and great things that are occurring throughout our school buildings. And so we've kind of picked a different school attendance center or school each month to kind of give you a 2 or 3 minute glimpse into the activities and that they're doing, trying to somewhat focus on some of the academic strategies that we're doing, trying to focus on achieving some of the goals outlined within our district strategic plan. And this month, we are going to have the video that is going to focus on Spring Hill Early Learning Academy, which is our pre-K program for students. So enjoy.
First of all, we have awesome parents. They partner with us to make sure that their students are supported in their learning, both at home and here at school.
Oh, this week is Spirit Week. We're having a Spirit Day every day. Today, tie-dye.
In my room, we're on a safari and the kids are getting to do lots with letters and numbers and learn about all different animal prints and patterns. So lots of fun here.
In my room, we are learning all about dinos. We have a dig, we have a volcano. We have lots of fun things to do.
This year, the kiddos are doing really well with coming in and adjusting and knowing the routines and expectations. This week, we're doing our farm theme. This week, we made butter in little jars. So the kids did lots and lots of shaking, and we're really excited to anticipate what was coming next.
Spring Hill Early Learning Academy has an awesome, creative, incredible staff of people who spend their time making sure that students experience learning in real-world settings.
And that is our good news, recognitions and announcements for this most recent month.
Very good. One of the things I remember from when we met in the early learning center was that they completely tear down those classrooms and rebuild them every 2 weeks. That's just remarkable to have that, to have folks that are super excited about, doing that and getting the education started off on the right foot. So thank you. All right, moving on to the consent agenda, which consists of approval of the consent agenda items, approval of the minutes from our last stated meeting, as well as personnel. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
It's moved in second for approval of the consent agenda as presented. Any final comments or questions? Candy, please collect the vote.
We'll start the vote with Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
approved.
All right, very good. Thank you. Moving on to our action item. First action item of the evening is on Forest Spring Middle School, the classroom audiovisual equipment.
Yes,
Dr. Luttrell?
this was on our last meeting's agenda as a discussion item that, again, trying to prepare and equip Forest Spring Middle School with everything needed to make sure we open up that in a timely fashion. In April, the classroom electronic equipment, not the whiteboards, but the interactive boards and all that. This was put out as part of a state contract. And again, we're trying to stay on top of our ordering so that we can get the items that we need bid out, sent back to us, submit it to you all for approval so that we can then get in a very timely, quick fashion, get them ordered so that we make sure that we can receive them in time to have our own personnel be able to install those well in advance so we're not rushing at the last minute.
Phil, you up for questions? I meant to get here early and ask you, but the 3 LCD one, they're buying 4 of those that they kind of hang on the wall. Wait, what is that and why are we doing those?
So they're in locations where the ceiling mount isn't a good option. Either the size of the space, the ceiling structure itself. Thinking through the STEM room, I believe has one. The teacher's workroom. They're on a blank where the other 2 go.
So we have the same ones at Woodland Spring?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we use them. I mean, we've got them here and there everywhere across the district. So.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Comments?
Mr. President, I move for approval of the Class AB equipment as presented.
Second.
It's moved in second for approval of the Forest Spring Middle School class audiovisual equipment as presented. Any final questions or comments? Candy, please click the vote.
We'll start the vote with Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
approved.
Very good, thank you. Moving on to discussion items, reports and presentations. Item 8.01, annual report from school district auditor, Dr. Luttrell.
Yes, we have every year, every school district has to undergo a state audit that looks over your financials make sure you're in accordance with statutes, mainly dealing with, federal programs, state programs we receive federal or state dollars from, and that we're in compliance. We underwent that this past fall. Over the years, because with the advent of technology, that process has kind of evolved where now it's able to be much more efficient because we can upload a lot of information for them to review. And then that way, whenever they do come and need to speak with our individuals, with Mr. Swin or his office or any of our USD230 team, they're pretty much able to let us know in advance. We can be well prepared. But again, the audit went very smoothly thanks to the efforts of a lot of individuals that work hard every day to make that happen, led by, Mr. Swin and his team. And here this evening, like I said, to kind of just give you a brief overview of the audit, to let you know firsthand how it came out, is the representative from our audit firm. So this time he's going to take a few moments and give you some of the highlights.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Sean Gordon with Gordon CPA. We performed the fiscal year 2022 audit of the district. So in the bound copy in front of you, or the copy of the audit report that you've seen in your agenda packets, I'll just kind of go through sections by section and explain what you're looking at. We'll start with pages 1 through 3. This is called the Independent Auditor's Report. This section was kind of reorganized by the state compared to the past few years. So the auditor's opinion used to be buried towards the bottom. It's actually now towards the top. So the third paragraph down on page 1, you'll see some italicized headline for a paragraph called Unmodified Opinion on Regulatory Basis of Accounting. So this paragraph just pretty much says that the highest and cleanest opinion that we can give the district for its fiscal year 2022 audit report, we did give the district for its fiscal year 2022 audit report. So it reflects very well on the financial management, internal control management, and regulatory management by everybody involved in the district's finances, Doug and his team, and anybody else included there. Further down on this section, we talk about management, the district management and the district Board of Education members' responsibilities for these financial statements. And then starting on page 2, we talk about our responsibilities for the financial statements. Flipping forward to page 4, this is called the Summary Statement of Receipts, Expenditures, and Unencumbered Cash. Here you'll see in the left-hand column all of the funds that the district has. And then the next few columns over, you'll see beginning cash of each of those funds that are listed, receipts, expenditures, and then unencumbered cash and ending cash broken down by fund. You'll see in the very bottom of that right-hand column is the total cash that the district had on hand at June 30th, 2022. The next section forward starts on page 5 and runs through page 12. These are called the notes to the financial statements. There's quite a bit of information discussed here, including information about the district, the accounting policies that it follows, information on deposits that the district had on hand at June 30th, involvement in the CAPERS retirement program, interfund transfers, capital project information, and then long-term debt information. Page 11, the table towards the top shows all of the long-term debt that the district had on hand. Or the district had during the year. So you'll see there about the total of that table, about a $5 million decrease in total debt throughout the year. The next section forward starts on page 13 and runs through page 44. This section is just more detailed breakouts of those funds that we presented on page 4. So you'll see just more detailed information on all the different receipts and expenditures that each fund had. You'll also see a comparison to how each fund operated compared to the budget authority that it had for the fiscal year 22 time period. And then the final section in the bound copy in front of you, or that you've seen on the agenda packet, starts on page 45 and goes through page 51. This is called the government auditing section. Anytime an entity receives and spends $750,000 or more of federal grant money, it's required to undergo what's called a single audit. So you'll see on this page, page 45, that the district spent $5,024,221 during the June 30th, 22 year end. So we were required to look at a specific grant or grants that the district had. And so we focused this year on the child nutrition cluster. And these are all of the food service grants that the district received during the year. So we specifically looked at the about $2.7 million worth of expenditures. And then the results of that audit, that special audit that we had to do, is on the results of that start on page 47. About halfway down the page there, you'll see a heading called Federal Awards. And we discussed just any of the results that we had there. And about halfway down that kind of section, you'll see unmodified. So the results that the district had for that grant, we issued the highest and cleanest opinion that we could give the district for that management of that grant. We specifically look at state requirements of the grant, federal requirements, and then just any regulatory requirements of that grant. So like I said, the highest and cleanest opinion we could give the district for that, we did. And then on page, the rest of the page, starting on page 48 through 50, these are just required letters that go along with that. A very good read if you're interested in that. So if you have any questions on that, please let me know. We had a really good audit this year with Doug and his team. He always does a good job of getting us the things that we're requesting in a very timely manner. So it was a good, very fluid, easy audit.
And I haven't looked through the whole thing yet, but did you identify opportunities for improvement?
Did we have any internal control recommendations? I don't think that we did. Oh, there was one about food service. Watching sales tax. Yeah. On we specifically look at credit card transactions to make sure that the credit card policy of the district is being followed. There are a few items that had some sales tax that were paid. Not a big deal. We can issue 3 levels of recommendations. This happened to be the least serious, I guess, if you would say that, recommendation that we could make.
And the other was the food service balance, right?
Did we have a food service balance? We did. Yeah. So we've seen this as a good problem to have, districts across the state, right? You're getting so much COVID money that it's going to be hard to meet that KSDE requirement for your food service cash balance. So it's something that we still have to recommend that is being watched. And like I said, it's an issue that we've seen at probably 99% of the districts that we audit so far.
Good thing. I had 2 questions or 2 things I just didn't quite understand.
Yes.
Page 9, note 7. It's the employee health care.
Okay.
But can you explain the carry forward deficit and if that's okay or why we have one?
Yeah, it was a carry forward deficit last year as well. And it was about similar, if I remember. So it's just, I guess it kind of defines it the sentence above. A carry forward surplus is an unused maximum claims liability. And the carry forward deficit reflects a funding shortage. So that $212,000 amount would have to be made up with future payments or the hope that future claims decrease in the next fiscal year.
Okay. And the second one is page 15. I'm sorry, wait, hold on. It's either page 15 or page 18. My note's pretty stretchy. Let me take a look. Yes, it was page 15 where we showed on state aid, our prior year was 4.6 million, but our actual for the next year has a dash. Does that mean it was 0 or what?
I think we had regrouped some revenues for this section. And so we may have actually moved that up to a miscellaneous line. I cannot remember why, but that is it. So it went from 4.6 to actually 4.8. We had just presented it on a separate line.
That's right. I saw that. I'm on the wrong page.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. Okay. Well, it's page 18.
Page 18. Okay.
The food service. And this may be more of a Doug question. Did we not get federal aid we were expecting on food service there, or it shows an actual of 68,000 with a budget of 1.6 million? I'm just curious why.
Yeah, and we show the federal money as coming, since it does come from the state, from KSDE, we show that as a state aid revenue. So the budget shows it one way, but the audit shows it another way, because we're saying it does come from the federal government, but it makes a stop at KSDE or the state.
You don't care
first.
which government, just
Correct,
government. Got it.
exactly, yes.
Thank you. That was it.
Thank you.
Enlighten me.
Any other questions?
What happens to this now? Do we have to file this or something by a certain date?
Yeah, I've got a checklist I follow each year. There's like 5 entities that need a copy of our audit. We've already taken care of the federal clearinghouse one today. In fact, I just approved those minutes ago. And we also file a copy with KSDE. Gilmore and Bell will file a copy. I've got that checklist in case you're interested, but it's what I follow from year to year to make sure everybody gets a copy that needs it. So, thank you.
Anything else? Any other comments or questions? Good, thank you
So much.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you, Doug, for
Yes, thank you.
moving on to our second discussion item, which is the request for middle school and high school orchestra to take an out-of-state trip.
And like I said, the heading there might be a little bit misleading on my part. I think it is only a high school orchestra trip. And anyway, we do have the orchestra teacher, Mr. O, the representative from that group here this evening. They have taken a similar trip in a prior year. It's going to be very similar, but we did ask Mr. O to come this evening and share some insight as to, some of the expense involved that the students would incur, how they've done a little bit of fundraising to help make that cost not be quite as great, and also the specific dates of the trip in terms of the amount of time that would be out of session. It is also, should be noted, it is not a 100% fun trip. They do have performance scheduled in there that they will do, including practice time and warm-up time before that performance. So, Mr. O, give us some insight, please.
You summarized it very well. Thank you. We leave here on if all the dates in my head are correct, March 29th, Wednesday evening. And we did take this trip last year as well, just with the high school orchestra. This year, we plan to have jazz band, Mr. Woogie, under Mr. Woogie's direction. The jazz band will be joining us as well. I believe they have 16 students enrolled. We have about 52, 53 students enrolled. I just don't know. We had a couple transfers out of district, and some, I think we'd be able to push 48, 49 with us, just orchestra members alone. Anyway, we plan to leave on Wednesday night on March 29th, anywhere between 8 to 10 o'clock. And because our goal to get there somewhere between 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning to Winter Park, Colorado. Last year we got hit with a winter storm, if you will, some snowy, icy roads. So I like to push our depart time no later than 10 o'clock so we can get there early time. And because our schedule, and that was my request, which they confirmed, pretty much a soft confirmation, because we're not entirely, although we did make a deposit, we're just not for sure going yet, because I'm standing in front of you right now. I'm trying to get it approved. So I made the request that we can play on Thursday afternoon into evening, both jazz band and both of our ensembles. So that we can forget about all that and then have fun for a few days, that's the plan. But we'll be there Thursday all day, Friday all day, Saturday all day, and the students are allowed to use their ski lift passes all the way through Sunday noon, which that's about the time that I also like to leave, so we can get back on time. And last year, to my recollection, pretty much everybody made it to school the next day, including myself. Nobody took off. Everybody's ready to work. Not to mention that is a quite busy time for us. Spring, it's a contest season. I mean, the next Saturday after that, we got the regional state and ensemble contest. So, which we did also quite well. So, sort of fun, but definitely learning experience involved. And every time us directors, we attempt to do something like this, as you can imagine, it creates a lot of work for us. So, but I like to do I'm here to do anything I'm here to do. So for the kids, for the students. And this was, I guess they had a lot of fun last year. They kept bragging that they were able to get Mr. Woogie's attention and the jazz band students. So yeah, we're asking for your permission to leave for a few days.
And like I said, this would be simply like I said, it's on the, simply as a report item discussion. And then, we would, if you have any follow-up, you can ask tonight or in between time, but we would put it on the formal as an action item at our next meeting, which would be regular meeting scheduled would be on the 28th of November here in a couple weeks. But if you do have questions, I believe you said earlier today, in an email that I asked, there would be couple other certificated sponsors that would go. I believe Mr. Like he said, the jazz band is being added. So Mr. W, well, would be a sponsor, chaperone. And then as always, there'd be I'm sure some parents, that want to go enjoy the experience.
Mr. Woogie confirmed that there are 2 for the jazz band portion of it. I have 4. I was hoping for 5, but again, some things are going on, so we'll see.
Okay.
How do they handle the bus drivers on those long overnight?
We only
trips?
had
They
one
take-
last year. The only time we have to leave the premise, the whole lodge area, there are multiple lodges all around the Winter Park. I don't know if you've ever been. That was my first time last year. I'm trying to remember the next town that we actually head to perform. It's about 20 minutes away. But we booked the bus driver a hotel in between both places. She comes, picks us up, and she dropped us off at the performance venue. That was the first day. Other than that, she said it was one of the easiest jobs that she's ever taken because, we hardly ever use the bus. So that's it. One drive, we did it because of the regulations. I think they can only drive certain hours or whatnot, but the distance allowed her to just take a couple breaks, and we were there in about 10 hours or so.
I'm glad it worked out well last year. It's exciting.
It did. In fact, it was the first day I think we were on a ski lift, and a couple of the students that I happened to be on there, they're like, "We're coming back next year, right?" I said, "Oh, there, let's just, I understand it's just that I was quite nervous, and I had never skied before myself last year. It was fun. I got my pictures blown up on Instagram because I was rolling down the hill, tumbling down, if I may. But yeah, it worked out quite well. And I'm glad the kids had really all positive experiences, and I'm glad that we're all part of it, something that just they're having a positive experience. So that's it.
Good.
So really the only thing you're asking us for is permission. There's not.
That's
really
it.
an
I think
expense.
I'm asking if everybody attends, which I mentioned in the email earlier to Dr. Luttrell. We took an online survey, like a Google form, that kind of thing, to see their commitment. Obviously, parents get the results and everything. So we're thinking about 64, 65, 66 kids will be attending, plus the chaperones and Mr. Woogie and I. So that's quite a few people. So that's why I'm here, asking for your permission to take them like about 600 miles away and back.
Okay. You got one last question. When's the next high school concert?
Monday, December 12th.
December 12th.
We'll be able to go. And this year we decided to include, I like doing that, including a full orchestra portion of it, but things were, it's working out. We did it in the last spring concert, and we're doing it again. We're going to include a full orchestra version as well. So we're lucky that Mr. Woogie is sparing some of his kids. So it's going to be great.
Good. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, moving along to Fort Spring Middle School security cameras, Dr. Luttrell.
Again, as we just approved some of the instructional equipment, this comes in phases. We've done furniture earlier, and now we're up to addressing the security portion with a lot of cameras to cover both, the interior as well as the big exterior portion of the campus. Again, this was bid out on the state contract. The costs there, as we said, are there listed. You can see the costs the cost that's there, and Mr. Elliott can clarify that, but includes the cameras, and there's some costs that are also for the monitoring software in that program as well. And like I said, if there's questions, please ask. And then if not, like I said, we will, again, this is just discussion. It would come back on the agenda as a formal action item on the 28th.
He has it. Let me know if you got any questions.
I do. So basically the cameras are the two different companies, the cameras are basically the same price. There's the, was it the, oh gosh.
Yeah, the Genetech monitoring software, that is the Kansas City area licensed dealer for the software.
So the camera, where it says camera connection, that's actually the software.
That's the license for the camera. Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense.
For the monitoring software, not for the camera itself, but for the monitoring software.
Okay.
We've tried to have them priced before. This company just recently has got new ownership. And the new owner is a former Access sales rep. So I think he knew what the other person's numbers would be my guess. So.
Got it. So it doesn't matter to you other than the price. Got it.
No, they come straight from Access. They're just drop shipped here anyway. So.
Okay.
Who puts these in?
We will.
You will. Okay.
Yeah. I hope, but we'll see. My staff's a little sparse at the moment, but if we get back to staff, yes, but otherwise we'll get somebody contracted in.
All right. Any other questions on the security cameras for Forest Spring Middle School?
Is it really like 50 some cameras?
55. That includes the door stations, which are the kind of like outside here in the lobby, the little wall station that has the card access and the camera in it and the push button to call front office. There's three of those.
Okay.
Yeah, there's three of those. Loading dock, back door and front door. And then there's 52 other cameras in the building and outside the building. And if you ask the SRO, it's still not enough.
Crazy.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have another?
Yeah, some of these, do they actually have audio?
We do not. We can have them.
Okay.
It's not been anything we've tried to keep.
Well, I saw they had it in the description. I didn't think we were capturing.
Yeah, we're not capturing the audio.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just curious.
Very good. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. Yep.
Moving on to student assessment report, part 2, Dr. Luttrell.
Yes, again, as you know, last month, we presented some data, Dr. Smith and I did, that basically focused on just comparison data between our total district students, how we performed on state assessments in the areas of science, math, English language arts, as compared to just the state as a whole. When you look at data, especially student assessment data, you have to look at it a lot of different ways, more than just looking at it state average to local performance. You have to then get into it, drill it down, and start looking at, giving a much closer picture as to what that data truly means. And so this evening, the focus of this part 2, and by the way, part 2 is not going to be the end. Okay, we will have a part 3 coming up in a couple meetings down the road, and probably, if I can talk Dr. Smith into, we'll probably even have a part 4, because you could dig it on. And those of you that were able to join the Kansas Association of School Board Conference this past weekend and heard Dr. Watson's talk, I think it kind of provided a good intro into this, because a lot of what you're going to hear this evening, or some of what you're going to hear this evening, are direct things that also were emphasized as key points with data and student performance that he mentioned during his discussion. And so I'm going to try not to interject a lot. I am going to get to start off with kind of doing a quick recap, and it's going to be quick on last month, part one. Last month, we just looked at total students to state average. Tonight, we're going to get into, which is Erin's, and I'm not going to steal her thunder, but as we, if I can get my clicker going, Phil helped set us up earlier with this, and then I had it going. I did have it going. Is that it now? Yeah. Thought it was. Here we go. As my thing is messed up again. So anyway, if you want to click Dr. Smith, go, she could click too. But from part one last month, you know, there's 4 levels of performance, and we looked at, of course, level 1. There's a level 2, a level 3, and a level 4. Now, one thing I want to comment on that Dr. Watson made a point to comment on is that you can see there at level 1, which we talked about last month, we definitely need to be alarmed when we have students scoring at level 1. There's no doubt, because they do show limited understanding of the skills and knowledge that they need for success. However, when you get to level 2, where it says that they have a basic ability to understand and use skills and knowledge for post-secondary, Dr. Watson very adamantly said, level 2 is not at all to be considered failing. It's just to be considered that the student is at grade level for the most part, but they still need to work at getting better and improving some of the essential skills. Yes. Level 3 is ideal where we would like, because we know that level 3 proves that if they get to level 3, they're definitely going to be set up to have post-secondary readiness success. And then, of course, level 4 is truly exceptional, as he kind of compared it to, and you'll hear Dr. Smith talk about it. Level 4 is kind of equivalent to like students that you would see on the ACT that you hear that score in the 28, 29, 30s. That's kind of that range. And that is a true rigor range. So go ahead, Dr. Smith, and just keep going through that. And like I said, you remember last month, whenever we talked about the summary of the various, you know, how that was how we're not going to rehash it, of how we performed. You were able to tell very quickly in every area in ELA that we were well above state average on all subject areas. You can just keep rolling on through. And then as you see also, as we went into and talked about breaking it down by each level in comparison to the district and the state, you want to have lower numbers ideally on the left end in the levels 1. If you have a lower number, but that on percentage wise, that's a good thing. You want to see ideally higher numbers, you know, in levels 3 and 4, which we'll get to later, but you can see it across the grade levels there of how we performed at each level. But remember, that's a whole as a whole with the district. So just keep on rolling through there with the ELA, and then go on through math, and we'll catch up to tonight's presentation. But the other thing to keep remembering there as she continues to scroll on through there is that, remember, we have the perform a very vital service by providing and having that partnership to have our students that want to enroll that aren't necessarily from USD230, but in the virtual school that we've had a partnership for many years. And that does provide a service to students that for whatever reason are unable to attend the regular school environment. However, those students are required to take the state assessment. And so as they take that state assessment, even though because of the way our arrangement is, they do not come to our campus every day. They are not under the guidance every day of our staff and our curriculum. The virtual school is doing the best they can, though, to work with those students, but those kids definitely, you know, have challenges. And so, but anyway, they are considered their own school within USD 230. So it doesn't matter what grade level a virtual student is, doesn't matter the subject, their scores are counted in our overall averages, which is fine. So the numbers that we just talked about last month was with brick and mortar students, with the virtual students, all as one. However, if you look at that would not really give you the true picture, because you need to then, as I said, which is part 2 tonight, you have to then take a deeper dive and look at specifically, okay, what do our numbers look like when we're looking at those that are able to come every day, that our staff are able to work with every day, versus the students that, because of, again, their own reasons, aren't able to do that, to see the differences, because really the brick and mortar, because we can control that every day. What differences, if any, do we see in the data? And that's what Dr. Smith is going to take over and do this evening.
All right.
In 5 minutes. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, don't not rush it all. You're going to be intrigued.
No, thank you. We are going to look at the differences between the two different types of academic programs. So as Dr. Luttrell stated, our district data is represented collectively with virtual students and our brick and mortar students on the Kansas Department of Education's school district report cards. So all of the students, that data is represented collectively. We have gone through, though, and looked at it, as Dr. Luttrell said, a deeper dive into that data, given that these are two different types of instructional frameworks. Students who are learning virtually, they're getting online and getting instruction, sometimes in asynchronous or synchronous settings. So they may be online for a little bit with their teacher and then working independently on their activities and assignments, versus our students who are coming to our attendance centers every day and are interacting in person with our teachers and with our academic program, curriculum, instructional resources, and our methods for monitoring their progress. So there is a bit of a difference between the two types of instructional frameworks. So we're starting with that scale score that we looked at last Board of Education meeting. So the scale score is just essentially where did the student fall on that scale from earning a 220 to a 380. So a 220 is the lowest score a student could have received, a 380 is the highest. And so what's going to be represented here is that overall average for each grade level. So for example, grade 3, the virtual scaled score, the student scored an average of 270, whereas our brick and mortar students, they scaled an average of 301. So a difference of 31 points. So you can see that that trend is similar across our other grade levels. Some grade levels, the difference is a little bit more broad than others, but there is a difference grade to grade. And so we're finding right now that our brick and mortar students on average are scoring a bit higher than our students who are learning through the virtual program. And so this is for ELA. And then we'll take a look real quickly. This is the percent of students for English language arts then at levels 1 and 2. So students who scored at levels 1 and 2 in the two different types of programs across our grade levels who participate in this assessment. So it's grades 3 through 8 and grades 10. Now this is performance levels 1 and 2. And Dr. Luttrell mentioned level 1 is definitely an area where we want to focus some effort and attention on helping students grow and achieve at higher levels. Level 2, though, is a grade level performance. They do have an understanding of grade level concepts. So just looking at 3rd grade, for example, when you combine the average number of students in the brick and mortar who are scoring at a level 1 and 2, for grade 3, it's actually just 15% of students who are at a level 1 overall.
And then when you take, and when you would take, and we'll get into this deeper dive in other parts, but even when you look at the brick and mortar and you look at level, even though this is level 1 and 2, when you look at our true level 1, I think we had approximately right at a total that 15% translated to like 48 students, brick and mortar students who are at level 1 at grade 3, but of that 48 students, we're able to pinpoint that down even further. And roughly 79% of that 48 came from 2 schools. Okay, which again, kind of helps us later on as we look more, helps us determine where we should direct our highest resources at to help those students. So
Absolutely. So at our last board meeting, we discussed that as we go through and really look closely at this data, there's not a specific grade level where there's a deficiency across the grade. So as we dive deeply, we can kind of pinpoint where those areas of need exist, and then we can address that with professional development, allocation of resources, making sure that the students have what they need to be more successful on those state assessments. And then this would be the number for English language arts, a percent of students who are performing at levels 3 and 4. So effective or excellent with the grade level content. And so in this case, kind of like Dr. Luttrell shared earlier today, earlier this evening, you want to see more students, you want to see higher percentages scoring in the levels 3 and 4. And so you can see the trend kind of continues right now. Our students who are in the brick and mortar attendance centers, they are outperforming the students who are in the virtual program.
Why did you combine 1 and 2 and 3 and 4? What was is there a rationale behind why that division? If level 1 is below grade level, level 2 is okay.
Mhm.
Why are we combining those two groups? I guess it's my question.
It's like, it's basically, it was a personal choice we could make. I mean, I think, but the key here, because the state does want you, the way they evaluate you, they look at, again, they feel that, again, you should have all your, to strive for your kids in level 3 and 4. That's where they want to go to all your kids. So, but then they look at levels 1 and 2 to say, okay, because it kind of like to get away from just looking at level 1, because that, I think Dr. Watson felt, which is true, that when you break out the level 1 separately, or that it sometimes can make it look like you're focusing on that as being failing, whereas it's not. But if we look at it, like I said, the level 1 and 2, we know, as we mentioned earlier, we're not hiding the fact that, like I said, when you break out, put it in 1 and 2, you then break it out a little bit more, which we will do. We've already done internally. But again, it's just a focus on, again, typically, the 1 and 2 levels, 3 and 4, if you're wanting to move your kids to levels 3 and 4, ideally you can kind of tell then real quickly how far away you are from that by how many do we have in the bottom 2 levels that we need to move into level 3. But it's a personal choice. You could break it down a lot of different ways, and we've done for, but tonight we just chose to do it in 1 and 2.
I think we do have a really great opportunity, though, to continue to focus on growing all of our students academically, including those who are in levels 1 and 2 with our multi-tiered systems of support. So as we look at other data sources and look at each child individually, we look at where there are opportunities to grow their skill sets and give them some of that additional academic attention so that they can achieve at their highest levels. So as Dr. Luttrell said, we've looked at that data across a number of different ways, but I'm really excited about the process that we have in place for providing additional support through MTSS and continuing to grow the achievement of our students. So at any level, we're always wanting to push and extend that learning. So no matter where they score, there's always a next step for each child. So just as a quick recap then, our district total, so if you were to pull up that KSDE school district report card, you would find that about 41% of our students, both virtually and brick and mortar, are scoring at levels 3 and 4. And when we break that out, we do see some differences in the 2 academic programs and how students are learning and what they're attaining in terms of their student achievement.
So actually, and the reason we broke it out here, because again, it's also about, as Dr. Watson said this week, it's about telling your story. And we do have a story where we kind of got 2 unique. We've got the virtual, we've got the brick and mortar. And whenever the average person, anybody looks at the report card piece only, they're going to see the district total piece only. Whereas it doesn't tell you the story about, oh, well, if you look just at brick and mortar, this is how they score. And you can see that that's quite a bit difference of percentage. And we do want people to know that, hey, you come and you're in person, and next month or the next time, the next report we'll have, where we actually start breaking it down further and looking at how does that 48.7% of brick and mortar students compare with other individual school districts and school grade levels that we can identify with in terms of school districts that we compete with as part of a conference, school districts that we may reside within the same county, as well as just an identified group of schools across the state of Kansas that have good reputations for being strong schools, to show how, again, are we doing in terms of performance? Because again, it's sometimes when you just look at the state average, that, until you can drill it down further, it doesn't tell you a whole lot in terms of how you're doing. And so that's why I've always liked to drill it down, much, much further, lower and lower levels, to get that story out there and paint a broader picture. Because the more you paint, the more areas you can come up with strategies on how you need and what you can do to improve.
All right, we'll take a quick look at math. And this is that scale score again. So similarly to English language arts, a student could score anywhere on that scale from a 220 to a 380. And so you can see kind of the differences between our two instructional programs. And similarly, like with English language arts, the trend continues where our students who are receiving their instruction at our attendance centers are outperforming our virtual students. This would be those percentages of students who are scoring at levels 1 and 2 in math. And one thing I think this gives us an opportunity, though, is to, we enjoy a really great collaboration with our partners at the virtual school. And so as we take a deeper dive into some of the state assessment data, we have this opportunity to collaborate and figure out how we can ensure that our students, regardless of what type of instruction they're receiving, that they're both getting equitable access to the curriculum, to those state standards, and they're all achieving at high levels. So looking at the data really closely, I think is very helpful in that collaborative partnership that we enjoy, and how we'll move forward with that.
Do you have the breakout of 1 and 2 for this math? And I ask that only because at level 1, that seems to be where the need, like, I feel like it's important to see where the differences are. All kids really at grade level in this, since some of these are very high percentages, or are they in level 1 where they're...
Sure, absolutely. So let's take a look at 3rd grade, for example, and we do have that is information that we can share and provide.
And that's where, like, but yeah, like on the brick, and like if you take the level 1 and next to it, and we could have broke it out, and I think that normally the state will always reports it out levels 1 and 2 as a group. Dr. Watson broke it out and to level 1 at his meeting. If I had known he was going to do that, I probably would have put a slide in to show level 1. That we've got that data, like I said, in brick and mortar, like at grade 3 in math. When you look at just our level 1 of that percentage, you see there brick and mortar, our brick and mortar students, we had a total of grade 3 of 27 students that were at, which was 8% of our students were at level 1. And again, then when you break that down across 3rd grades, elementaries, we can focus on these because the data then shows that, again, approximately 90% of those 27 students, again, came from just a couple of our schools. And what we have not identified yet, which is even more important, is of that many times in your levels 1, okay, when you're talking 27 students, many of those are going to be students that might have an IEP, might have a 504 that has them with some learning challenge that through no fault of their own, they take the test, they're giving their best effort, and they might still be scoring at a level 1. So, I mean, that's why you have to just keep drilling down to the data. And like I said, and that's something that, again, without at the board level, you don't want to get too far into the weeds, because I think that's what my role is. That's what Dr. Smith's role is. And that's what our staff are to do every day, is figure out and work with the data to help guide us where our focus needs to be, and put truly names and numbers, to this data so that we know, because it always eventually is tied back to a child. And that's what tells you kind of where you're at and where you need to go.
So for example, at grade 3, that 30% of students who are scoring in levels 1 and 2 in our brick and mortar, 8% of them are actually in level 1. And for the virtual school, 42% of that 69% would be level 1. So we do know grade level to grade level, how many are in each performance level.
So as we look at kids that are in level 1, is this where that additional math instruction and reading instruction really becomes critical and where we're adding positions to help that level?
Absolutely. So students who are scoring at a level 1, we would conduct some additional diagnostic testing through our multi-tiered systems of support process. So that testing is basically like saying, hey, we see that there may be some opportunities to help build some skill sets. Let's find out what areas within math or within reading that maybe we can build up and make sure that you have a grade level proficiency with. And that may take that student more time and a little bit more intensity working with a wonderful math interventionist, for example, like Jamie Weiss, who was here earlier. She works with those students who have those most intensive needs and helps to fill those gaps in their learning so that they can be more successful in accessing their grade level curriculum. So absolutely, for students who are scoring at level 1, it's critical that we provide them those support services with the personnel, the resources to address any gaps that they may have.
And it's also important that, which was touched on at the conference and some of the sessions, was that when you talked about, it's not always about adding a new position to help with it. It's more so making sure you're efficiently directing the resources that you already have, because that's where some people, it's sometimes confusing when we talk about, we do want equity for all students, we do, but equity is not always equal. In other words, if you have one resource full-time at one school, maybe that 3/4 of that resource ought to be directed to another building because of their need versus the need that they're showing. So again, a lot of different variables. That's what's the intriguing and I think, fun part about the data is getting in there and figuring out, what story it's telling you to help guide you determine what map you want to put into place to get that data to where you want it.
Yeah, anytime that we're looking deeply at the data, it gives us an opportunity to reflect on the curriculum itself. So making sure that the curriculum locally is aligned with state standards. It gives us an opportunity to reflect on our instructional resources. Do we have the right tools in place for teachers to implement within the classroom? And then we also ask our teachers regularly. We conduct a needs assessment with our teachers annually on what professional learning can we provide so that you can deliver high quality instruction and meet the needs of all students. So a deep data dive really gives us an opportunity to consider our curriculum, our instructional materials, the professional learning and training that we provide our teachers year to year. So these are great conversations and a really good dialogue that we can have internally with our staff on how to best address student needs. So then looking at our students in math for levels 3 and 4, we see some differences again between our virtual and our brick and mortar programs. Our students in the brick and mortar attendance centers are continuing to outperform those students in that virtual program. So we have a good opportunity to really work collaboratively and strengthen that partnership with our virtual program and making sure that our students are able to access their grade level curriculum and achieve at high levels. And so this would be, again, just that high level when that district total is reported, all students collectively, we have close to 38% of our students who are scoring at levels 3 and 4 for math. But there are some differences then when we break that out in terms of virtual and brick and mortar. And then this is our science data. And just a reminder, science is just tested at 3 grade levels. So we have 1 elementary, a middle, and a high school grade level where these standards are assessed. So these are our students performing at levels 1 and 2. So you can see the differences there. And then our students performing at levels 3 and 4. And then just a quick look at that overall picture. So we definitely are seeing some differences in the type of delivery model, how that plays into student performance. And then we discussed next steps at the previous board meeting, and we thought we would just kind of briefly touch on those again in terms of what we intend to do to continue to push that achievement and that growth for our students who are in the brick and mortar program. One thing that our professional learning communities are working on right now is proficiency scales. So that means they're taking a learning standard and breaking it apart into what are the chunks or the targets that need to be acquired to fully master that standard. So what steps need to be taken to fully engage and learn and do that standard in a way that's very rigorous, high level depth of knowledge. So thinking about equity and access, that's really important that all of our teachers be on the same page when it comes to what skills, what things do we want our students to demonstrate to show proficiency of a learning standard. They're also working on common formative assessments. So throughout the year, they're giving small, quick assessments to gauge whether or not the student is making progress, if they're headed toward full mastery of the learning for that grade level. And in their professional learning communities, they're looking at that data and adjusting the instruction along the way so that when a student may be showing some struggles with something, they can provide on the spot help and support, and making sure that that student does not get far behind, does not create gaps in learning. And they've been working really diligently on the multi-tiered systems of support, building out that process, making sure that we do have a systematic way to ensure that all students who need additional academic support do receive it. And we've got an instructional materials adoption coming up for English language arts. In December, we'll share a recommendation, which I am excited about. Our teachers have been doing so much work on this. I think they're going to be really happy to come and share their recommendation with you in December. And then we talked a little bit too about some of that training that our teachers are undertaking. We've got administrators, instructional coaches, and teachers who have started the LETTERS training program. It's a 2-year program in reading instruction, specifically targeted at our youngest learners in kindergarten through 3rd grade. So making sure that by 3rd grade, every student is a fluent and proficient reader. And it's a big commitment, but I'm very excited about the group that's participating. I think they're going to do some amazing things with this learning. And then we also have a number of teachers, administrators, and instructional coaches who have been doing academic intervention training for the last 1.5 years now. So some really exciting things that our folks are working on. So, other questions or things we can answer tonight?
As I said, and we'll be back again in the near future with part 3, which again will focus even further down, taking our brick and mortar and looking at our averages to, especially at, in the upper 2 levels of 3 and 4, where the state wants everyone to be, as to how that number compares with peer districts of both size, as well as just recognition by name, which I think is important.
Andy, could we get this put into our library? And can we get the final one that's got the bar charts that, because they didn't print out in this one?
Which one? I mean,
The one that broke it out between all the levels.
yeah. I can get you the full, the copy, if that's what the copy of, you mean the levels 1 and 2,
Yeah, the bar charts, they just didn't print. That's all.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I'll get you a copy of the presentation, definitely, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to be able to get to it later. I won't find it here. So.
Will part of that, we'd be able to see the actual numbers instead of percentages? I don't need to see it by school, but
Yeah, we've been, yeah.
Number of
yes, we've
students
got-
rather than
Yeah.
percentage.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
more clear to me, so.
Yeah, and
That's
it's,
where-
I've got it. Yes, and I've got it. And like I said, like I said, you could, what you, as a presentation piece, because you just see like from tonight with just, you can take a small amount of data and you can talk about it, infinitely. And so that's why I think it's important to try to spread it out over a lot of different times. And so, but yes, that's something that we could definitely because we have it available that would show numbers to show the specific number of students at a particular grade level that are at each of the levels. And just like, again, Dr. Watson said at his remarks over the weekend was that, again, when you start really looking at, even when you're breaking out level 1, but when you break out level 4 and just look at level 4, which is at very high level, okay, which again, it is a very high expectation and is very rigorous, but you will see across the board at the state average, there are very, very, very low numbers of students scoring at level 4, especially in the area of math. Again, the only way that will improve is, again, we have to make sure that districts that we direct resources within the classroom that challenge those kids and truly bring rigor in, that's going to maximize that potential to score. Because like I said, typically scoring at a level 4 is equivalent. Would be equivalent on a scale wise to scoring in that upper close to a 30 range on the ACT. I mean, it's not easy to do.
Just this is me dragging a little nugget back from that conference. It's all it is. Just something to think about, maybe see how it aligns with our district. But they talked about a very, very strong correlation between level 1 and chronic absenteeism. And so that's yet another variable to think about. And I don't know how that might align with what you're doing, but anyway, it was a thought. And the interesting thing as we look at these numbers and we think about how hard and fast a lot of these are, they also talk about the level 1. I think around 70% of students that are in level 1 through their K through 12 school, about 70% of them graduate, and about 14% go on to post-secondary education. And that number should only be 5%. If you just specifically go with the numbers and you just do a statistical analysis that says, what's the predictive percentage that would go on to post-secondary? And it's 14. So it's almost triple of what the math, the statistics tell us. And so I just want to make sure that we always think about that. There's variables that we can account for, and there's variables that we don't pull into this data. But I think this is a fantastic foundation. That's a great place to start to continue to, segment that data into finer and finer groups so that you can get to resource.
Dr. Smith, can I add one more variable? He mentioned variables, and I had a chance this last week to review the virtual data with Mrs. Barton. And she mentioned a couple of things that she and I are going to advocate to KSDE for as well. One of the things to keep in mind with virtual data is they're still required to come on site to take that assessment. So when you think about our brick and mortar students who are going to take, if they're in 5th grade, they're going to take ELA, math, and science over probably several weeks, because you're going to space it out and give them breaks. They're essentially coming in and doing all those in one day, which has got to have an impact on their student achievement data. I think there's still room for improvement, and she was active in a conversation with our secondary principals this last week, talking about learning targets and needing to align curriculum better, needing to better develop student improvement process. But I think that's a piece for the board just to keep in mind, as they are taking all of those assessments in one day.
No.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity when we look closely at the data to just look for opportunities for improvement within our academic programs. Where can we better serve students? How can we continue to help them grow and achieve? And absolutely, many students are going to continue to have post-secondary success beyond what one data point shows. But it is just a good opportunity for us to consider, how can we continue to best serve kids?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or? All right, very good. Thank you.
Appreciate the different ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Smith.
All right, moving on to items on the horizon.
Again, pretty much, yeah, hopefully you all are used now to trying to give you a heads up on what's coming down the pipe as, like I already said, we're whetting your appetite for more at some point. Don't know yet whether it'll fit in on the 28th meeting or probably the meeting, one of the meetings in January to talk part 3 of some student assessment data, which I think you will realize, because that I think will put into more perspective, although we still have to focus on us and our needs and our students. It's still good to see if maybe you're looking at, are we way behind or are we way ahead of peers? And so with that, I think that's going to really give you some interesting perspective. I'm hoping, as I said, to have I have a draft copy done of my listen and learn tour that I recently completed. I'm hoping to be able to, I will be able to provide that to you at the December 12th meeting. I've already given Dr. Villarreal my draft, and we're working on fine tuning that and getting it into a format. Of course, he gets frustrated because I keep going in and adding to it or changing things. But that is going to be coming down the pipe as promised. I think that'll be enlightening. And then I also been talking all semester about the importance of because it helps drive our data, our collaborative Wednesdays, professional learning community model that you district has done for 4 years. I think this is a key year to try and tweak that, fine tune it, because there are some components in it that I don't feel that our staff and I both do not feel that we're maximizing the full potential, but we think if we make some tweaks, it might have a greater impact. But yet, so every opportunity I've had this year to preach about the effectiveness of those collaborative Wednesdays and the professional learning community models. And we've tried to give some information out to parents in my updates that I send. We are going to be putting out a survey to parents that I've been telling them all semester to be looking for. We're hoping it should be distributed electronically to parents this week on Wednesday. How appropriate on a collaborative Wednesday, no later than Thursday morning at the latest if something would go wrong. We're hoping to get that data back in. We're going to hold it open about a week to 10 days, and then we'll have that data to come back, and we'll share that on what parent attitude as well as staff attitude was about that time. We also plan, especially on the parent survey component, to do some talking points with that so that they'll have some crucial information about the importance of that time. I also think it's important to realize and let everyone know again that collaborative Wednesday time is just about that's the time where the focus is on student learning. The data you just saw, the students scoring at various levels, that's the time where items like that can be discussed in depth with grade levels, with teachers and instructional coaches and facilitators. It is a very crucial time, and we've got to make sure we maximize that. So we're going to be asking some information from parents to get some feedback from them before we decide which directions we want to go and bring back to you with possible recommendations. But we'll give you that survey data, hopefully, if not the December meeting, sometime in that early meeting in January. Also, as I mentioned one time before, we're still in the infancy with this, but I'm still been working with our bus transportation company, looking into just, what a tiered busing system model might look like. We worry about ourselves, but USD230 is one of the last remaining districts that has had the luxury of not having to go to a double tiered or triple tiered system. And it works out great, but because, as we said, it's a challenge with drivers these days to cover the routes. With Forest Spring Middle School opening next year, I think it's the time is right now to look at that, because we're going to have to adjust anyway. Also, even though Apple Bus sold to First Student last spring, we are actually, the contract that we had in place continued, and we are in the final year of our transportation contract. And so it also, not only with the shortage of drivers, not only with opening up Forest Spring, but also with the fact that we are up, this is a time to relook at the contract. We can kind of maybe look at the tiered busing model in with that, because, again, in a tiered model, you do reduce your routes. There are savings in that because of, the less the personnel costs and that with that. And we'll get into that, but I'm still hoping that we can get some information on that and have that too, because any decision that we would make on that, I'd like to have made no later, if we could, by early March in there, so that we then got time to communicate it out. And again, and by no way am I saying we're making a change. I just think that now is the right time to look at that because of just some other variables that are kind of coming together all at once, and we can look at that. And then also in January, February, yes.
Question on the busing, are we still being serviced by the kind of the core Apple bus group, or have we been?
When Apple took over, the two main individuals that ran the USD Spring Hill office are still there and working. And so it's been pretty seamless.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Then we also have a couple of other program reports. I think sometime in January, February, March, I want to hear you. Our health professionals have worked real hard on a program with Project Adam. I want them to come in. They're going to be formally recognized as a certified district in that nationwide program. And so we'll give you some information on that and kind of do some recognition with those professionals that worked hard with that. We also, I want to, our elementary schools especially continue to do the last couple of years a great job implementing the Leader in Me program. And we want to come back and I want to have some of that information shared of how that's impacting students and how that drives in with our in leadership capacity with students in terms of that also helps them develop habits that are going to be productive, not only in the future, but now to help them and helps hopefully drive their academic success as well. Also, at some time in coming up in the next few months, want to have another update on our real world learning, especially focused on our grant initiative that we've had through the Kauffman Foundation that we hopefully are in the process of hopefully fine tuning to be able to actually submit a proposal with your blessing to the Kauffman Foundation sometime in late winter that would provide us some funds over the next 3 years to really get some deep dives into the real world learning experience. The grant would be covered by the Kauffman Foundation. Of course, initially upfront all the costs, but then any long-term costs after the third year of that grant, would have to be undertaken by the district. So we want to make sure that we get a good bang for our buck, but we're going to give you more information on that as well, because we've been to several workshops, forums on it. And our team, especially right now, focused at this more of the secondary, because it is right now pretty much focused an initiative at the high school level that then later you can ingrain into your middle schools and even down to your elementaries in the long term. So I want to make sure that everybody's up to speed on that. And then at our January, one of our January is a fifth Monday. So we actually would have use a Monday for a work session, and that work session on the 30th, I want to try to have, we're going to have for sure our demographer come in that evening. And he's had some interesting conversations to share with me within the last month. Now that we're hopefully getting to the other side of the pandemic, there are some variables that are in terms of work and different things that have nothing to do with the virus, but are still impacting the way that, our nation operates, that again drives where people live and where they work and how they live and work. And so he has some updated numbers to share that kind of, again, will help guide us ahead in terms of what our enrollment's going to look like, possibly in terms of projections, so that we can plan accordingly, because just without stealing too much thunder from him, we are, he does feel that we're going to continue seeing growth. We did see growth again this year, although it was, less quite a bit than what had been projected. And we want to make sure that we've got accurate numbers, but he's going to come and give us some insight on that, which will help us make decisions then moving forward from there about if we would go to the ballot for some type of a bond, GO bond type initiative, whether it be an increase or a no mill increase, whether that would have to include a new school of some kind, or maybe could just maybe be a smaller one that could address some maybe issues within our existing buildings and programs that we could address through that. And then, of course, I haven't forgotten about, we said, this year we did put a stronger emphasis, have tried to put a stronger emphasis on Julie enforcing, making sure that cell phones are kept out of play unless permitted directly for instruction by the teacher, and then outside of class. It's been pretty quiet, but I do plan to hopefully begin before the end of the school year to get some data on that so we can come back and see if there's any change in attitudes about how that may or may not be impacting our learning. So those are some things coming up on the horizon. I was telling President Updike the other day, that's one thing that I definitely know that, I've been here a while now, even though it's still short tenure, is that when I first started in July and August, I pretty much had to kind of rely on others to kind of know what exactly needed to be addressed. But I've been here now. I've talked to enough people within the state organization, both internally and externally. I now kind of have a very good feel for what directions we need to go in terms of getting information out that make sure that not only am I aware, but the board's aware, so that we can make decisions in a timely manner. And we've still got Candy keeps me on track as well. So that's some of the stuff on the horizon. It's going to be busy.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Moving on to committee reports. Any committee reports? I guess a few of us attended the Kansas Association of School Boards conference. It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this past weekend. I don't know, Sharon and Nicole, you're both there. Thoughts?
Yeah, I haven't had really time to collect my kind of takeaways from all the different sessions, but I did get a chance on Friday to do the pre-conference tour of Andover's new high school that they built, which was Andover High School. From what I understand, they rebuilt a school, like replaced one, and then on a nearby property, and then dozed the old one. And the thing that was probably the most impressive about that building to me was their fine arts wing. Kind of made me think that that's something that we might want to look at expanding, because our high school has gotten so much bigger and our fine arts facilities are not bigger. So I know the band room is probably bursting and stuff, but they had their theater. I mean, and they have a seasoned theater person there that I'm sure was key to this. All of these things that I saw, like having key staff that really take care and steward these things, is essential. But they had like a whole kind of warehouse room that they could build sets in, and then had the two big garage doors that you could move the set onto the backstage, which is really amazing. So anyway, those were good. And then the other building that we toured in Andover was their new CAPS facility, which is separate for them than their CTE program. It's more not necessarily, I kind of looked at it as more topical based than like whether it's 2-year, 4-year, whatever. So they had like a medical health sciences thing, but they had kids that were interested. They had a kind of like a robotic dog, so veterinary or human. And they had a virtual cadaver and some very interesting things there, but they're doing a lot of project-based learning, but actually projects for business. And one of the things they showed was they had designed bookcases for the elementary school, that so kids could kind of thumb through books instead of
just having them up like on a shelf or something. So anyway, just really neat projects that they're doing with, I think they said they have 250 kids in that program this year, something like that.
Wow.
So that was probably the highlight of mine. I thought some of the speakers were really good. But I'm, yeah, and I'll go back and kind of think of some takeaways, but some good sessions and some kind of okay sessions that maybe didn't apply so much.
Right. Nicole?
One of the sessions that I really enjoyed, it was put on by the Circle School District, which is close to Wichita. They had this work-based learning that their goal was to have 100% of their students complete like an internship and complete, and I forget what it was called, but this like career ready program. So that's their goal. And they're pretty much almost there with the internship piece of it, which equals about 150 like senior students doing that. But the interesting part, well, there are two parts of it is one, this process starts in 8th grade and kind of utilizing what they call like pathways, but which when I say that, I think of ours, but different. And then really teaching them essential skills for working, interviewing, but even more so them taking a lot of ownership and then finding and getting that internship. Along with then they started with their community, what they call a work ready community. So connecting education with business. And so businesses all over their community and outside of it, partnering with them to make this successful for the kids. So whatever piece that business is willing to assist in this program, whether it be an internship or being part of an interview or helping lead a class on one of these essential skills was really, really cool, along with then having each of these kids take the NCRC and the ACT, which are two kind of, they utilize them as like bargaining agents when they're having kids find these internships. So it was just really interesting. I think that here we have some of these pieces, but maybe they're not all connected into a really something that flows like this. So cool, kind of cool to see where it could be going or how we could get our kids like real world ready in doing this and getting them really out there, whether that means part of it is with this completion, they also are like kids either get a 2-year degree or certificate or have like real on the job training or something like that. So they complete this with a skill they can take with them. So it's been pretty cool. I thought it was really neat. So the other thing that I found really interesting that it was a session put on by the Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools, and how they educate their public prior to elections in what it is to be a board member. Something that they found was really misunderstood in the commitment and time it takes up here. And so I thought that was really cool and something that maybe we could look at providing and educating our people. I think one, it is sometimes unknown what is back here and what we all look at and how we look at things, but two, it's overwhelming from the outside. So how to ease some of that and get different people involved, knowing that you don't have to be in education and you don't have to be, all you need is a passion for kids in our district. So.
Very good. Thank you. I attended one. It was called 10 Legal Things Every School District Should Know. It's fascinating. It was about 7 hours of information shoved into 45 minutes, but it really was good. The pieces that they really focused on, they spent a lot of time on Kansas Open Meetings Act, Kansas Open Records Act, and I think it's all things that we have to be aware of, and we need to make sure that we follow the law. So it was really interesting. A second a second session that I attended was about behavior and performance. And one of the key pieces that they talk about there were two key pieces of students learning, and that is number one, perseverance. And number two, just left my mind, perseverance and self-regulation. So if kids can't self-regulate, you have to stop and back up and teach that self-regulation, because that's absolutely critical to them learning. And then the perseverance piece that I thought was fascinating is if you look at our Horizon Award winners tonight, all those folks we had a lot of fun celebrating this evening. Every single one of them didn't just, my assumption is they don't talk about perseverance, but boy, if a student wants to learn about perseverance, all they have to do is watch, so they teach just by what they're doing. And I thought that was and there's a tight correlation between student success and perseverance. So I think it was a nice take home message for us. We had a third session I was talking about it was a board president from Greensburg, Kansas, and he kind of walked through what they went through when everything disappeared in a tornado and what they had to do. He said he'd never had so many lost so many friends over school colors and mascots as to when they decided to consolidate. But anyway, he had some real insight. He'd been a board president for about 20 years. So he had some interesting insight on things like chain of command, how to develop close team partnerships amongst the board, with administration, with the superintendent. So he had some real good insights about those, or key insights, at least from my perspective on that. Outside of that, communications. We talked about communications a lot and how social media has really had this impact over the last 5 to 10 years that people hadn't seen before, and how it used to be his comment was if there was bullying, you had to be in eye contact and within reach of the individual. And now it's consistent. It can happen. Kids can be bullied hundreds at a time, consistently 7 days a week. It never goes away. And so it's something I think we have to at least know this out there and think about. So, but overall, my perception was it was very, very positive. It's the largest one I'd ever been to in the state of Kansas. I think they had 650. It was interesting because I was talking to one of the planners. Were you telling me that?
Yeah, somebody mentioned it was the most they've had in 10 years at a conference. So
yeah, and they had 650 people signed up, and the maximum allowed in that building was like 580 something. So they planned on a few people not being there, but it was packed. I don't know if you've ever been out there, but it's basically 3 big conference rooms that they open up, and there wouldn't be a seat available in it. It was a lot of fun, a lot of excitement, a lot of folks truly engaged in that. And so it was a good experience, I thought. Yeah.
I did think of one more session that I went to that the DeSoto School District did, kind of on the politicization of school board elections. And they had just kind of shared some analysis of how much money is being put in from outside political action committees. And in DeSoto, there were campaigns where there was over $30,000 put in to people's school board campaign. And when I look at DeSoto, I think that's, kind of a district that we're kind of like and will look like. And so anyway, they were just talking about how they dealt with it, and just some things that they see are kind of trends in elections. So that was not necessarily a real positive one, but
yeah, interesting. Plus just interacting with other folks, like-minded folks within the state of Kansas is always fun. I tell you, I have a new best friend out in Copeland, Kansas. They have 150 students in their entire district. And then you talk to folks from, Shawnee Mission that has 20,000. It's just great to see those different perspectives. So, all right. Anything else? Any other committee reports? All right, moving on to superintendent's report, Dr.
Okay, try to move along. Like I said, I mentioned earlier, we do hope the well, we will send our Collaboration Wednesday PLC survey out to parents and staff, this starting this Wednesday. You've heard Mr. Swin and I comment about, we'd like to see the state maybe go back to the way they used to allow growing districts to receive their funds that fiscal year rather than have to have a delayed end result of receiving those, which kind of puts you behind the eight ball, even though you do get it eventually. And so we decided that instead of just asking, we would try to be a little bit proactive. So we're trying to get a legislator, and we've had a local legislator that's going to meet with Mr. Swin and I midweek this week. And we're hoping that after we outline what we would like, that we think would be a win-win for everyone across the state of Kansas, that they would sponsor the legislation for us, that we can then maybe put word out within our own, because I've already talked to some other superintendents that would really like to see it as well. I know Mr. Swin and his group of school business officials, when he raised the question with them and matter with them, they were very receptive. Of course, we all know the legislative process is slow, but we're going to try to, if we can get the bill, or at least it's filed, then we can try to see what traction it gets hold, and see what we can do to maybe see if we can get that change down. We have also been in contact somewhat, with the Kansas Department of Education's Finance Department, one of the key individuals in that office to kind of guide us as well of how we should go about this. So hopefully we'll continue to give you some updates on that as we move forward with that. And then, we have a special board work session this Saturday, the 19th, starting at 8 a.m. And the purpose of that meeting initially was to be fine-tune a long-term superintendent evaluation model template. I emailed earlier today, this afternoon, to each of you just a draft that you could at least start that work from in terms of a discussion. I do think that it encompasses a lot of the components that many of you were seeking in terms of a true rubric that provide a description for each category of performance that dictated, help the person determine what would be the best one to check rather than just trying to have in their own mind what that might look like. It tells you what look fors have you noticed. And then we also have planned a tour of Forest Spring Middle School for that morning. However, something has arisen, that in some of the written communications informally that I've kind of given you updates on over the course of the past couple months involves a project partnership that the city of Spring Hill would like us to undertake with them. It is a very complex initiative. It's one that, again, I've not had much experience with. It's kind of a new one that's been recently made available to a larger network of communities within the state of Kansas. This initiative does have some cons. It has some pros. If it's done correctly, it could provide some long-term benefits to both the city of Spring Hill as well as Spring Hill USD 230. But it's important, though, that on our end, that as a board, you all have all the information needed and your questions answered to make sure that an informed decision is made. The one thing about this particular project is that the school district, unlike many abatement projects and that tax abatement projects, the school district as well as or the county in this project would involve, even though it's in Spring Hill, is in Johnson County, that either the county or the school district, if one of those entities is not on board, the total project does not proceed. So it is important that we have our information, that you have the information to make an informed decision, but it is complex. So I was thinking what I would like to do and recommend is that we you direct me to carve out time at our work session, which is open to the public. Work sessions are open to the public in this room on Saturday. Typically though, like when we go to the buildings, because we typically work at tables because we're looking at diagrams, sometimes we get up and move and the audio and that. So we typically, even though they are open to the public, we would welcome that attendance. They typically are not streamed for a variety of reasons, just like when we go out to the buildings. But I would recommend that if you direct me to aid in this project phase of getting the information, getting your questions answered, that you allow me to reach out to the city and ask them to be represented at our work session and have maybe the city administrator, maybe the city planner, and even the key developer that's on this project to have ask those representatives to come on Saturday morning. We'll carve out a period of time and let them present. And anyone that else that would like to attend, again, our doors would be open. But I think that would help. And then we could have some time then to reflect and digest it. And then we can come back and again at one of our upcoming meetings. We still have another one in November. We have the one in December. We have one in early January that maybe we could come back then and we could maybe debrief on that and talk about it. Because like I said, the key about this project is once the community, there is a community hearing on this that's required by statute that starts this Thursday night to allow public input on the project. However, the city is going to not conclude the hearing at a certain time. They're going to then, once the public live portion is over, they're going to leave the comment period on it open through at least the December the 8th. But then once that December 8th date comes, then there's a 30-day calendar window that starts operating, which would then go into early January. And then after that 30-day window starts, within that 30-day window, the county or the school district or both has to go on the record officially, especially if they're saying we would rather not participate. So there are some deadlines with that, but I have been working with the city and they've agreed to kind of not rush it, so that keeping the public comment period open through into December, then that kind of, so we've got some time to pause and make sure we have all the information on our end. So if you direct me, I'd like to really reach out to the city and carve out a place of time on Saturday to have them present to come and give us their thoughts on why they feel this is necessary and how it's going to benefit not only the city, but also be good for the district.
I think that's a good idea. I think it's important that we actually get the information direct from the folks that are proposing it directly from the city. So I think I would say move forward with that, Dr. Luttrell, so that we all hear the information at the same time from the actual resource or the actual source that's playing that. So
I would agree with that.
Good. Okay, I will do that then. All right. And that is my report.
very good. Thank you. We do need an executive session this evening.
Okay, Mr. President, I move that the board recess to executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of a non-elected personnel to protect the privacy rights of an identifiable individual under coma. Those to be in the session include Board of Education members, superintendent of schools, assistant superintendent of school, and administrators as requested. Executive session will begin at 9:10 and resume no later than
Late D number 20 minutes, 30. No more than 9:40.
okay, no later than 9:40 at this place.
Did I get a second? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Nicole's next one, second. It's been moved and seconded to move to executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel under coma. Candy, please collect the vote.
We'll start the vote with Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
approved.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, that legal thing was outrageous. They said the 10 things, they got to 3. They went through 3 and then 5 minutes left, so they just went level 2. And I was like, well, I need it.
I would have thought they'd have made it a 2-hour session.
I said, next time, you can say 3 things or 5 things.
Yeah.
Focus, because it was.
You get a little bit, just enough to scare you.
Well, right, exactly. Feel like question. I don't think they planned on all the questions. Because people, they started getting into details, the serial meetings. So I send Sharon a text and then Sharon sends it to you and then you send it to Brent and now all of a sudden we have a problem. And so you go to the graduation. Now you have a serial meeting, right? And they Adam and graduation.
We're pretty good about trying.
It might not be a bad idea. So, yeah, even at one of those
It's too easy to.
sessions.
Yeah.
What's her
It's
name?
easy to
What's the,
stumble.
we need to do that. She can do it great.
That's, well, I last time I talked to him about it, he's like, yes, he actually says it. Yeah.
How do you make it that?
Yeah, this is that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I heard his voice and I went, Brent's here. No. Same voice. Really? Oh, yeah, very similar anyway.
Keith, are you there?
That's funny.
He's a neat guy.
He's actually just took a new job. He's the head of the Farm Bureau tax for kids.
I think it's.
Yeah. He was a Holden Ball.
Yeah. It's still snowing?
Yes.
We can still hear it out here.
Oh, well, that'll be. They can still hear it down here, so we. Oh, you can't?
Fix it? Okay,
All
okay.
No, I was looking, good, thanks.
Oh, but you see how fast all this moves, so it's better just sitting there.
Yeah.
Particularly when things get changed. It's like, yeah. How fast can I move?
It's going on late.
I'm not. Latest I noticed.
It was just in the room, I wouldn't transfer to the,
Oh, okay.
and Keith hadn't moved. And he was still in this, not in there, so I jumped back over here to try to get him to come over there.
Told Rachel that's about 2 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Not making it up.
Not making it up.
No, I appreciate that. What I was trying to do was, he had moved, this meeting.
Out there waiting for you?
So I was trying to get him. Over there. Because here, just so you know how that works. So I had to call them, not phone. And I had to add a break. But Ally, he is still in this. What's that supposed to do? Somebody else said that today. Oh,
Okay, all right, we're back in session. We do have an action item on personnel.
Proposed, but I'll just say, Mr. President, I move that we accept the recommendation for Mrs. Darcy Sly to be employed as the principal at Forest Spring Middle School. Starting July 1st.
For the starting. Recommend hiring Mrs. Darcy Sly for the position of Forest Spring Middle School Principal for the 23-24 school year.
Okay, as stated by Dr. Littrell.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded to accept the recommendation of Darcy Sly as the new principal at Forest Spring Middle School when it's open for the 23-24 school year. Any questions or comments? Candy, please collect the vote.
We'll start the vote with Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Milius.
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Updike,
Yes,
approved.
very good. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Congratulations.